Brand new episode of the Retro Room Podcast here on the Ball Is Life Podcast Network, which you can find on ballislife.com for the audio version. If you're a fan of video podcasts, go to youtube.com/Cruise Control Podcast. As always, I'm joined by Denny Blanco on both Instagram and Twitter. Denny Blanco, my man, how you doing?
You always know the vibes. We here, we in the building, and we have a special guest. Please,
that's right.
Randy.
My man Anthony Gilbert, Slam Magazine, covered Philadelphia back in the day. Allen Iverson, Kobe Bryant, you name it. He's on Twitter at AXGilbert. My man, how you doing?
Hey, it's good to see y'all, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. It's been a while. We are embarking on 20 years since Philadelphia made the NBA Finals. They could make it this year. They had a possible MVP candidate in Joel Embiid. They're the 1 seed. They could play the Lakers in the finals if they get there with LeBron and AD. So 20 years ago looks a lot like now. It's crazy, right, Ant?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I guess like that saying, the more things change, the more they stay the same, you know?
Right. So we're gonna cover a lot. I had you on last year. We pretty much spoke about AI's career. Dope episode. Go ahead and find it out on my SoundCloud. But we got two things, man. We got 25th anniversary of the 1996 NBA draft coming up in June, and of course, the 20th anniversary of AI and Philly going to the finals against the LA Lakers. So. But I know you have a very interesting story about how you got to be involved with Philly, with working with or covering AI and Kobe and those guys. So how do you get involved in covering Philadelphia?
Yeah, so just being a young Temple University student, I had aspirations after college. I was like, you know what? I need to keep this momentum going. I was working for both the men's and women's basketball programs. And they were doing well. They're doing really well, especially the men's program under Coach John Chaney. My school was doing a trip to New York City. Now, for people that don't live in New York City, that's a thing, you know, for your school to do a trip to New York. I had a little bit of, I had more of a reason to go there because my family's from there. So I was like, I'm going home, quote unquote. But the caveat was there was going to be a Knicks preseason game that night versus the Sixers. So I was like, all right. So the trip basically was like, we're students. The trip was like $10. So you get transportation and a ticket to the Garden. But during the day, you're on your own. You just got to meet at the Garden by like 6 o'clock, something like that. So I'm like, all right, free trip back to New York, see the family, you know, what have you. All right. Now, this is early days of internet. So I found an email address for a woman that works for the Knicks. Her name's Jeanette Rodriguez. She works in the community relations department.
She answers your email.
She answers the email. I send an email. I'm like, hey, I'm a student. My school's doing a trip. I just want to pick your brain. Like, can I get you a coffee or what have you? She's like, yo, no question. She's like, I'm from Brooklyn. Like, this is what it's about. Like, you gotta share the wealth. So I was like, word. So I meet up with her. I gave her like a Temple shirt and a mug. And I was like, yo, every time you wear this shirt or every time you get your coffee in the morning, like, you need to remember, like, there's that kid in Philly. You know what I'm saying?
Kids pay attention to what he did just there.
You know what I'm saying?
You're right.
So
go ahead.
I'm being ambitious. You know, this is October. This is preseason basketball. But I'm like, yo, I'm going to need a job one day. So she just hit me after, you know, I made the acquaintance and she got the gifts. And she was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, maybe I'll just work for the Big East Conference or something. And she was like, you're in college. Like, you need to go to the next level. You need to go to the NBA. And I was like, oh, say word. So in working with her during that fall, in the spring, I sent in a application for MSG. It got rejected. I hit her like, yo, thank you for everything. I appreciate it. She was like, hold on a second. And then like a day later, they was like, yo, as a matter of fact, congratulations. You are in
teach the children. Wait, teach the children. Because at some point, some people would see that and be like, damn, I ain't get it. They may not send a follow-up thank you for the opportunity, but you took it a step further. That's dope.
That follow-up, I was like, yo, I appreciate everything. You looked out. Thank you. And I'm going to continue to keep in touch. And she was like, just 1 second. Hold on. She was like, because I can't believe you didn't get it. And then she reversed the curse, man. And, you know, I still have the rejection letter.
Hold on to that. Yeah, man.
I actually laminated it. I probably should frame it, but.
Yes, do that. And do that.
You're right, though. You're right. Like, I looked at it and I didn't take that for an answer. I just took it as like, all right, maybe not right now. And I just thanked her and I kept my head up high. And next thing you know, I got the acceptance letter. And then I was back in New York. So I was working with the Knicks, who were in the playoffs. They lost to the Pacers. I'll never forget it because, you know, we're kids. NBA on NBC. I'm right there. I'm like, yo, this is nuts. Yo, this is nuts. Knicks versus Pacers conference finals, and I'm here.
Was that 99 or 2000?
2000. They lose.
Oh,
okay. The Pacers go to the finals. Then my job is like, yo, you're gonna go across the hall. You're gonna get all you can get from the Liberty, and this is what you're gonna do for the rest of the summer. So it was crazy. So I went back to Philly. Like, I don't even want to go back to college because I'm like, yo, I just got a world's worth of learning on the job training. So I contacted the Sixers and I was like, yo, I'm coming from the Knicks. Like, I need an internship. And they were like, well, we'll see what we can do. And then they put me in the PR department. So here I am. So then, I don't know if y'all remember, Philly started out 10-0. Like, the season was crazy. Cats in Philly were buzzing early, like, yo, this team actually might make a run.
Right.
Theo Ratliff gets hurt. They trade for Mutombo. They go to the playoffs, and they're, like, riding high. They swept every award. Coach of the Year, Defensive Player, MVP,
Allen
Six-Man.
Iverson.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who was the six? Who was the six-man?
Aaron McKee.
Aaron McKee. Yeah.
So they sweep. It's crazy. And I remember, here we go again, like Indiana Pacers coming into town. Reggie Miller got the ill, like, hook part, you know, like the ill.
Remember that shit too, yeah.
Raekwon, like, hook part. And I'm
wild
sitting
throwback.
there like, I'm like, this dude is nuts because they had just went to the chip the year before. I was like, Reggie coming in here, he won all that action.
All the smoke.
Yeah, but Philly was ready for them because they lost to them 2 years in a row. So they finally get past Indiana. And once they did that, it was like, yo, they might have a chance because that was the thorn in their side. So that's how I got where I was. So that's how I went from one front row seat to the next.
And listen, man, you can't ask for a better debut than the first year you start covering Philly. They go to the NBA Finals.
Yeah,
you can't ask for a better debut than that.
Wild.
You know what I'm saying?
Word.
So before Denny goes, I want to circle back. So right now, we have 20th anniversary of Philly making the finals, but also 25 years since the 1996 NBA draft, which AI went number one. And I saw a couple of things on NBA TV that had a 2-hour documentary. But when you hear something like 25 years, like, does it in your head? Wow, I feel old. It can't be that long. Right. And like, it just kind of push you in this nostalgia moment. Like, wow, like, it makes you want to go back and do the research and find out who was in that draft. What was the war room like?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what was it like watching on live on TV? When you hear 25 years of that draft, which is arguably the greatest draft of all time, what goes through your mind? What, aside from AI going one, what do you take away from that draft 25 years ago?
I just remember thinking that, like, in '94, I had first met Kobe. That was the first time I met him.
Mm,
And in the 2 year span, like, he fulfilled everybody's dream. Like, I knew people that went to the league. So in '95, Jerome Allen, coming out of the University of
User
Pennsylvania.
Penn, Jerome
Yep,
Allen, University of Penn.
yep, Ivy League. Like, he got drafted in '95, and he was teaming up with KG. So I knew his cousins, Terry and Smoke, and they was like, "Yo, we gonna go to the game." So we go to the game, and like 2 rows ahead of us
mhm.
is Kobe, and we're
Wow.
enjoying the game, and we're like, "Yo, we hope that Jerome gets in," and we're looking at KG, and we're cheering and cutting up, and Kobe is looking like he's studying for a final exam. Now I didn't bother him because I was like,
Mm.
"Yo, he don't look like he's in a good mood," but he was locked in on KG because
Always
he
locked in.
knew he knew the year after it was his turn. You know what I'm saying? So, like, there were always these things like hovering around '96 that, like, I look back on now, like, man, I wish there were some things I would have done differently. But when you're a kid, and especially us as men, sometimes you don't want to say the wrong thing. You don't want to get too involved. You want to play
Mm.
it cool. I just wish I was more of a pest, like maybe like Little Penny or something. You know what I mean? Because
Why?
my
Why?
story, my story personally could have been much differently, because once I finished school and got into journalism, Kobe was like, "Yo, you my man. Like, come along for the ride."
Wow.
His whole career, he gave me access. And I kind of wish that I would have started that a little
Early.
sooner. Right. Because now
Mm.
I know, right? I know now. But back then it was like, nah, I don't want to say nothing. Nah, he's actually younger than me. Nah, I'm just gonna fall back.
Right.
Nah, I should have been more of an active participant. So night, and then also I also knew Perry Kittles.
Kerry
Mm.
Kittles,
So
Villanova God.
yep,
One
That's
you
right.
sock
know what I'm
up,
saying?
one sock up.
That's right, super fact. So it's like I was too cool with him as well. You know what I'm saying? And it was just like, I don't want to bother him. So there was some people in '96 where I could have gotten a closer look. I could have been more involved or been a part of their lives a lot deeper. Um, I'm thankful for what I had, and Carrie and I's relationship is a lot stronger now because, we done been through it. We done lived it, so I could call him now and we could talk about the past, and we could talk about Kobe, AI, and the Big East and all that fun stuff. Um, so yeah, man, it's just been a blessing, and I think I'm gonna have to write a book one
No, you're gonna
day.
have to,
That's
Anthony.
right. That's
Anthony,
right.
Anthony, you're definitely gonna have to write a book. And before I ask you this question, I'm gonna
Hmm.
say a couple of things. When I think about the, I mean, you said the 1996 draft. I graduated high school in '96.
Okay.
Okay. Just for folks to know, I graduated high school in
Yeah,
'96. And I say that to say that's when the greatest basketball was played. Okay.
that's facts.
I
That's
don't know
facts.
about I don't know about these new generation folks, these new Gen Zs. I don't know about this pulling up from three, 1-on-5s. I don't know
Oh
about all
yeah,
that. But what I
yeah.
do know, when I look at this list here and I see in '96, I see what is this? Kobe, AI, Steve Nash, Sharif Abdul-Rahim, Ray Allen, Steph Marbury, Jermaine O'Neal, Peja Stojakovic, Antoine Walker, Marcus Camby.
Mm,
Come on, yo.
that's a
Crazy,
Come
lot.
on, man.
That's a lot.
Come on,
crazy.
man. So when I hear '96, it just takes me back to when basketball was always an art form, but it's just completely changed over the years. So the '96
Hmm.
bubble, it was different. So it leads me to my question, which is, you mentioned Kobe Bryant. Now, for those who don't know, with Kobe, I went to school down in Philly, small school, Academy New Church, Bernathen, PA, right
Okay.
outside of
Yep.
Okay, see, right outside of Lower Merion. For those who know, okay. See, yeah, we're gonna
Okay.
talk after.
All right.
We're gonna talk after. Okay, so follow me, right? So I go to this school, ANC. Nate Connolly, shout out to you wherever you are. He was the guy. He comes back. He comes back from AAU, played at Contra Hawkins, played at one of these AAU tournaments.
Yeah.
And I'm always interested. I'm a sophomore at the time, junior. I'm like, hey, what'd you see? I'm always trying to pick his brain to see what new players are out there, what new moves are out there. And I picked up the Jerome Allen move too. But I said,
there you go.
I picked that up too. So I said, Nate, what's going on? What'd you see? He said, well, I just got dunked on by the best player I've ever seen in my life.
Whoa.
And I said, well, what's his name? He said, Kobe Bryant. And that was junior year.
Right. And you're like, okay.
I'm like, okay, Kobe Bryant. And so my question is, when was the first time you saw him play? The first time you saw him play. So it's one thing that, know he's brain, know he's about the game. But when you first saw him play, what did you think? When and where? What you can remember?
The first time I saw him play, it wasn't in the game. It was more so like he had invited me out to like one of his workouts.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there like, whoa. Like what I noticed first was just fundamentally like he was the most sound I've ever seen. Like super, super technical, but not like a robot. Like more just more precision. And like at the time, Aaron McKee, Eddie Jones, Rick Brunson, they were enrolled at Temple. Like, so the big five, Jerome Allen, Kerry Kittle. So I'm seeing the best of the best on the college level. And I'm looking at him like, yo, hold up. And I'm hitting his sister like, yo, like, dude is nice. And she's like, I tried to tell you, because it was her. I met her first. She was the star volleyball player at Temple. And she's like, yo, my brother, like, he's nice. He's in high school. You got to come and see him. And I'm like, yeah, well, he ain't better than me. And that was my mistake. But I was trying to be somebody,
You've made mistakes. You and a lot of NBA players have made mistakes like that before. So it's okay.
Right. So I say, because, this is Philly, I'm like, go get your brother, which is what anybody would say, right?
Come see me.
So she does. And I'm like, okay, never mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got all the back pedal in the world,
Right.
Like, when she said little brother, I didn't know he was bigger than both her and I,
6'6" in high school.
Right. I'm like, well, wait a minute, hold on a second. And to his credit, he was upset because he was like, yo, like, you was talking trash to my sister. What's up? Like, let's get it. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. Like, this man had real fire in his eyes. So by the time I did see him, and he's like, yo, you mind rebounding? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. And then he's like, yo, like, what are they saying in the city about me? I know they talking trash. Like, let me have it. And I'm like, yo, this dude's different, man. This dude is different.
He exuded the Mamba, the Mamba mentality before we knew what the Mamba mentality was.
Yeah,
exactly.
He exuded that at an early age, and of course, if those that know his story, being in Italy, moving around, and being you having to be your best friend, it does something to you. It puts you in a certain focus that can be even with all these distractions coming in to an NBA player coming in at 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, he was like, whatever, man.
He's
I
just
don't.
sitting there like this.
Yeah.
It's ball or nothing, and that is
Yeah.
phenomenal. That is
Yeah.
phenomenal. Randy, talk to me.
Well, I do want to. I do want to stay on Kobe real quick. I like
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
because we always talk about um what is a player's greatest rivalry.
Yeah.
Um, best friends as they were, to see AI and Kobe go at it on the court is just, you just don't see that nowadays. Everybody's good friends and all that kind of shit. Not saying AI and Kobe hated each other, but they knew it on the court. I'll go at you one on one. So, Ant,
Mm-hmm.
out of the whole entire career AI's played, and Kobe,
Yep.
is AI's greatest rivalry Kobe, and is Kobe's greatest rivalry Allen Iverson?
That's a good question.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that. Kobe's last season, um, I don't know if y'all remember, but he didn't actually say it was going to be his last season until like probably like 2 months in.
Mm.
Right.
So it was speculatory. It was like,
Right.
this is probably it. And I had that feeling because I know him and I know how he thinks. He thinks in like these like broad terms, like, okay, I'm gonna play 20 years, I'm gonna win 6 or 7 championships, I'm gonna have this many children, because he's always been that way. So the Lakers played in Brooklyn in November 2015. And I asked him straight up, like, yo, like who's the fiercest competitor? Not who was the best person that you played against or the person that guarded you the best. I was like, who was the fiercest? Like, who was like that toughest person? And he was like, AI. And I was like, what?
You was expecting Jordan.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting. And he was like, AI. And I was like, well, so I'm stuck. But I'm like, why? And he was like, he just kept coming, man. He said AI was relentless. And I was like, whoa. So I left it at that. And then I want to say a couple weeks after that game, he was like, yo, like, this is going to be the last season. And right before, like right after that announcement, so it was like 3 days, he makes the announcement. Then there's a day off, which is also a tribal day. And then they played the Sixers. So I'm like, all right, true Kobe fashion, he makes the announcement because he's coming home.
Mm.
So in the press conference post game, I was like, yo, Kobe, a couple weeks ago, you told me AI was your fiercest competition. And he was like, he like cuts me off. And he's like, absolutely, 100%. And then the media's like, everybody's like, whoa, like, because
Exclusive.
Yeah. So everybody's like, and then he explains it, he unpacks it. And he's always talked about Tony Allen was the one that guarded him the hardest. But he talks about AI as like the fiercest and the most relentless. And that is who AI is, because once the game starts, like AI could care less about anything else. But once the game starts, oh, it's showtime, man. It's time to go to war. And I think that finals exuded that, with Philly winning game 1, almost winning game 2. I think Kobe and the Lakers knew, like, man, we actually got a battle on our hands, and we better not play around. And that's what happened. They didn't play around. They lost that first game, and they were like, we gotta lock in. But that second game was up for grabs too.
So I know they'll eventually meet up in that 01 finals, but AI trying to get there was a little rocky. Not only that year, but in years prior. So he comes out in 96, no playoffs 97, no playoffs 98. They go to round 2 in 99, and I think round 2 in 2000.
And keep getting stuck by Indiana.
By Indiana. On the flip side, Kobe's winning championships in 2000. But we finally get to 2001. AI is a different different animal, different beast. Um, as you said, they swept every award: MVP, Coach of the Year, Six Man, Defensive Player of the Year. AI is gunning for not only to do well in the playoffs, but finally get a NBA final spot.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, AI 31 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, 56-26, number one in the Eastern Conference, and of course they win their division. Um,
Randy,
the yeah,
Randy. I mean, the numbers alone, like,
as a point guard who's less than 6 feet tall.
see, you mentioned when Kobe says, AI is his fiercest competitor. Shout out to Tony Allen. Tony, you didn't have to score too much, so all you had to do was play defense. So,
Right.
I mean, I give you that.
That's a great point. It's a great point.
Holla at me. But when you're talking about Allen Iverson, all right, and I knew this was the game where I knew, because I've watched many games with Allen Iverson even before, but there was a game for those who really want to know how, when you talk about competitor, go on YouTube and Google the first game Allen Iverson played against the Bulls.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. You had Jordan, you had Pippen, you had Rodman. And let me tell you something. Allen Iverson was giving them work, so much so that they started talking trash. And Jordan's like, and Jordan's trying to check him. Like, Jordan's like, yo, chill. You all right? And Allen's like, F that.
Yeah.
F it. He's attacking Rodman. He's attacking Pippen. He's attacking Jordan. And I'm like, he's different.
Yeah.
He's different. Again, I told Randy earlier today, too, the other episode, I said, even after 2 hours of sleep at the casino, 55 on your head, boy.
Right.
Fact.
You're right.
It's
Come
a fact.
on. It's a different type of thing when you speak about Allen Iverson. 6'1", 6 foot, all the injuries he's gone through.
So the two questions I got regarding those stats, because people nowadays tend to be like, well, if he's a rookie and within his first 3, 4, 5 years, there's no playoffs, there's nothing to show for it. They might look at him as a bust, or like he wasn't worth a number one.
Michael Olowokandi. Michael.
Remind me from back in the day standpoint, with a guy like AI who comes out and doesn't get over the hump in his first 4 years, were they looking at him as a guy like he's all about scoring, he's all about himself, not trying to get others involved and get better? Okay, I really don't recall anybody saying that, but I know we're living in a different time where they talk about AI as a guy like that can't lead a team to a championship.
Not since that selfish interview. Other than practice, the practice. Other than that,
so as the homie Robert, also known as Meek, would say, there's levels to this, right? So
that's right.
On the local level, Philly media was trying to rip him up.
Man,
they were trying to, like, come on, man, this dude, can he lead a team? All he does is score. On a national level, it was like, no, this is a phenomenon here. This dude, like, yo, we need more of this. And then on the street level, it was love, man. It was nothing but love. On the street level, it was like, yo, I don't care what nobody say. This dude right here that hangs out at Fridays, he's the guy. This is the guy
that hangs out on Fridays.
That was AI spot. You would see the Bentley and you would be like, oh, okay, AI's here.
Right.
But yeah, so it was definitely that kind of established tiered love that was going on. I think what happened was eventually the Philly media started to kind of think like, well, maybe if he gets some guys around him, because AI went through like 2 coaches, and then they get Larry Brown. So they had Johnny Davis, they had Maurice Cheeks, they get Larry Brown, then they start getting some players who are going to say, you know what, we revolve around you. We're going to work hard. We're going to come to practice. You're going to do whatever, but we know game time is on.
Exactly.
Right. So that's what happens. So they throw the ball in the air, and it's like, all right, AI, you go. We're going to rebound. We're going to hustle. We're going to pass the ball back to you. You're going to lead us. And it worked. But where AI and Larry kind of clashed, I want to say probably like that year when AI won All-Star MVP, which is a great All-Star game, by the way. Him and Marbury did this thing down
one of the
in
best
DC.
All-Star games ever.
Yes,
One of the best All-Star games ever. Ever.
And the AI is like, yo, hold on. Where's my coach? Like, that's when people were like, all right, you know what? We actually might get over the hump because AI started to care about more things. And he started to see like this bigger picture of a team. And that's when it started to really, like February, people were like, whoa, wait a minute. This is different, you know? So that was, I'd say, them starting out 10-0, AI wins MVP and is more of a team guy, especially in that game. He was a team guy. And then they get Mutombo, and then the pieces start falling. And it's like, okay, this team is dangerous. And they were.
Well, I got a couple more minutes with the Ant. I love that you came on the show. I appreciate you. We got to talk a little bit more about some Philly stuff. You know what I mean? Because I'm New York transplant got out there, so I got to talk to you on the side. But listen, with Allen Iverson, and you know you've covered him for a little bit. Would you say the Philadelphia media owes him a very, very big apology? What I mean by that is, do you think they were rough on him? And that could be in general for the media. Do you think the media was rough on Allen Iverson being the number you're talking about a college player, right? He didn't come out his senior year, correct? What year did he come out of, Allen Iverson?
Sophomore.
Sophomore in college, number 1 overall draft pick. You're the face of the franchise, and it just seemed like they were hard on him. Do you think they were too hard on him?
I would agree with that 100%. Like, not only do they owe him an apology, but the only person I've ever heard say how much he's meant to their career is Stephen A. Smith. Like, AI made Stephen A. Smith.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad that he actually says it publicly, but he's the only one. But everybody else should be like, yo, like, AI, like, I owe you too, because it's easy to write the negative because Allen didn't care. So it was easy to write it, and then people are gonna read it and run with it. So they just kept doing it, and it's like Skip Bayless. No disrespect to Skip, but we all know that that's his thing, to be negative. That's his thing. That's how he makes his money. So so a lot of writers and in the media did that, and I think after the fact, it's like, wow, not only did like he take a beating on and off the court, but like AI is like a super sensitive dude. This man will cry at the drop of a hat. He'll also give you the shirt off his back. You know what I'm saying? Like, AI is a sweetheart. He's just a hood dude. Like, that's who he is. And that's fine. He's unapologetically who he is. And I just go on the record and say he's approximately 6'1", because I'm 5'11", and he's significantly taller than me.
Hey, man. 6'1", 5'9", 5'11", 5'12".
Yo, and could you imagine AI saying, "Listen, man, I can't play low management today"?
No, never that. Man. you really would have to. I saw something where they said they used to have to like hide his gear and his uniform. Like, when he was injured, they would have to hide it because he was like, "Yo, I'm playing, dog.
I'm playing.
Like, I'm playing. What do you mean? I'm playing.
Exactly.
And a dude like that would play the game for free.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And then you got a
All
media
day.
bashing. Then you got a media bashing him. I'm like, here's a guy, young, face of a franchise. He's growing into his own as an adult. He wants to explore. He hasn't had the ability to explore it. Also, too, he's growing into a man. This is a guy from Newport News.
Yeah, bad
Not
news.
Newport.
Yeah.
It's a Newport News. Yeah. I mean, he's seen so many people die. He has to go through life, and he's doing that while working with the job, while being put in a bubble and being watched. So it's very
unfair.
It's very unfair. Even though people are going to say, shout out to you guys watching, people are going to say, oh, he's getting paid millions and millions of dollars. I feel you. That's always a statement on why someone should take abuse from someone else, and I disagree. Randy.
Yeah. The millions and millions of dollars is the gift and the curse. You know what I'm saying?
Facts. So before I go into their finals run, I want to put these numbers up again for you real quick. I'm gonna put Ann on a hot seat right now. So only for the last 20 years. So let's say, for example, Jokic is the current MVP, right? So we'll put him in there. Only the last 20 years. MVPs. There's Ivo, there's Kobe, there's Nash twice, Dirk, there's Duncan,
Shaq,
Dirk, Garnett, Giannis, LeBron, Russell, Harden, Durant, a whole bunch of people. D Rose. When you see these numbers, if I say Amp, where do you of the last 20 MVPs or 20 years? Where do you rank Allen Iverson's 2001 MVP season? Is it top 5? Is it top 3? Is it number 1 for what you've seen? How would you rank his MVP season?
I'd probably say he's in the top 10, and he's probably going to be. Let me see. Shaq is my number 1. I don't think Shaq is enough credit for what he was able to do.
No argument here.
I think people always think about like TV Shaq, but like basketball player Shaq, like young Shaq.
Do your YouTube, do your Googles.
And you know what? To be fair, I'm going from 01 to 21, so Shaq don't count. Shaq don't count right now. He was 2000. So from 01 to now.
And then I'm gonna go Derrick Rose.
Because you say Rose MVP's run.
Yeah, because Derrick Rose not only was super young, but he elevated a team in a true MVP sense. Like, it's not like he had superstars on that team.
Not at all.
He was a youngin' and got them to that number 1 seed. You know what I mean? So like I gotta rank his very high.
Over AI? Over AI?
Well, hear me out.
I got you.
I'm not gonna say number 1. I'm just gonna say it's very high, right? So 01 to now, so Giannis and all them, like, nah, nope. No disrespect. It's just a different game now. So
okay.
Hey, man.
Understood.
Hey, man.
I think we could go AI, D Rose, and then we could start to fill in the blanks, because what both of them were able to do at size, at that stature, at that age of maturity, at that level of teammate, it's astonishing. Like,
Steve Nash win his MVP, the first MVP, not the second one. Was it
05?
Okay,
the first MVP, Steve Nash, was kind of flavory. The second one,
yeah. You could probably put Nash right after those 3. Yeah, because it's the same story. It's pretty much the same story.
Absolutely.
Size, athleticism, ability. You know, it's like, okay, yeah. I would rank it 1, 2, 3.
Steve Nash is probably the least athletic person on that MVP list. And he's an MVP. Exactly. That's wild.
So
his
for the record,
his second one needs to go to Kobe, but whatever.
That's what I said. That's what I said.
So for the record, you have AI's MVP season of the last 20 years in the top 3.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. That's easy. Yeah. That's easy. Ain't nobody gonna do that again.
Yeah. I'm just saying D Rose ain't go to the finals. Steve Nash ain't go to the finals. AI did, and the constant back and
But
forth.
it's a regular season award. But I feel you. Yes.
They defeat Indiana round 1. They get to Toronto, which is one of the all-time great 7-game series of all time.
Yeah.
It's called an AI going back and forth 7-game series. It went to the final shot in Philly. What do you take away from that series, and why was it such a great all-time series between Philly and Toronto?
It got started early. I mean, they both were just like coming out the gate, like scoring 50 points. Like what?
Like,
And like my homie Allen Williams was on that Toronto team. Shout out to Villanova. And he's from Philly. So like he's been guarding AI since the Big East days. You know what I mean?
Too long.
And even he knew, like, yo, dog, we're not gonna stop this man. So Vince, I'm gonna need you to get in your bag, bro. We literally are gonna have to shoot these guys out. And that's what happened. It was a 7-game shootout. And everybody always wants to say that Vince shouldn't have went to graduation, but that's not why they lost. They lost just because it's a 7-game series and anything can happen. Like it went 7. It went 7.
Exactly.
So like Philly could have lost that.
Easily.
Easily. Yeah. So it's like there's always gonna be factors. Philly had the home cooking, they had AI, they had Mutombo, but there's Junkyard Dog, there's Vince, there's Alvin Williams, like there's Del Curry, like there's these
Alvin Williams, Philly native, holla.
Yeah. So there's these factors where it was evenly matched. And then the next round after that was evenly matched. Like getting to the finals, it was a thin line in those last 2 rounds with Philly getting the best of the Bucks and the Raptors.
So real quick, AI 34-7-4 in that conference semis. Vince Carter 36-6.
Crazy.
7 games.
And the game was more physical and it had more defense than now. So if they were playing in under today's rules, it'd be 56-6.
Right.
And 51, like nuts.
It'd be bloated.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So they go 7 with Toronto and they go another 7 with Milwaukee. Most don't know that team, like Ray Allen, Big Dog,
Sam
Cassell, Tim Thomas,
a
dunking Ray Allen, a very athletic Ray Allen,
and Sam Cassell is now an assistant coach with the Sixers, which is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't. No, that wasn't Ray Allen playing on Milwaukee. That was Jesus Shuttlesworth. Watch your mouth. That was Jesus Shuttlesworth. Okay.
First name Walter Ray Allen.
That's right, Walter Ray. What do you take away from that conference finals between Philly and Milwaukee?
So both of those series just comes down to the superstars are going to get theirs, and then there's this pinch of like familiarity from the Big East. Like here we go again. UConn versus Georgetown. We had Nova Georgetown. Now we're going UConn Georgetown. So like it was like, yo, we know what you're going to bring. I know what you're going to do. We just got to try to stop it. So here we go again. Like that series was crazy. I just remember like, you got to be kidding. We're going another 7 games? Like I said, the fact that they got to the finals, because like the Lakers road was perfect.
Smooth.
Yeah, they won every series. They won every game. Sweep. So Philly, by the time they got to game 1,
they was rough.
Man,
they were tired.
They was going on fumes, man. It was like, sheesh.
Right. So I got one more before I know Denny got to run soon. The main stuff, the main ingredient is here. They get to the finals. LA, Philadelphia. I recall seeing that game one live on NBC, and
Yeah.
everybody counted Philadelphia out. Might go 6, could go 5.
I said sweep.
But that game, Anthony, like you can't replicate that. AI was just on a different mission. The only loss for the Lakers in that whole entire playoff run,
Mm-hmm.
courtesy of AI in Philly, 48 overtime, I believe. And of
Maybe.
course,
Yeah.
I
Maybe.
think yeah,
Correct.
overtime, yeah.
It's
And
fine.
of course, the play with Tyronn Lue, which 20 years later still gets a lot of pub and play.
And I don't know why. To this day, I don't know why. Truly,
Yeah.
I don't. Because when I
Bro.
saw that, I said, when I saw it, I said, how else is he going to go around him the quickest way? Is he supposed to run
Well,
around?
it's just the way he did it because he actually makes the shot. He makes the shot, and then it's like a defiance. Like, man, like you can't guard me tight.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It might have been an N-word thrown out there. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why people love it because it was powerful in the moment, and then when you try to relive it, it's like, ooh, because you can even see the bench. Isaiah Ryder is like.
Like, damn, son, damn. My own team got.
Yeah, he's like, I hate that it has to be you.
But see, what was I gonna say? Tyrone better than me. Tyrone better than me. I'm trying to stop this guy. I don't even know. Mind you, he's already cooking already by that point. So all of a sudden, he does the step back and he shoots a 3, and I'm on the ground. I'm looking up at this dude, and he decides to step on me. I'm catching his foot.
Kind of kind of like Draymond did to LeBron James.
Don't step over me, baby. Don't step over me, baby.
But you know, one thing about Tyronn Lue, he was on the B team in practice. He was AI going against the starters.
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember that.
he braided his hair and he was going against the starting team
He did.
as AI.
He was, yeah.
So game 1, it doesn't go so well. But game 2, they make some adjustments, and the Lakers almost lose.
Listen, man, I thought they when I see game 1 and I'm like, this could be a series. We're gonna test the Lakers.
Yeah.
I'm not a Phillies fan. I'm like, the more games, the better. I don't want to see a sweep or a 5-game series.
Sure.
I saw that plenty of times. Even though that was the only dub in the finals, my last question would be, we seen AI get 40, 50, 60,
light,
do a whole bunch of shit.
Light.
But would you say that game 1 of the 2001 finals is AI's magnum opus game? Is that AI's greatest game?
Yeah, I'd say that and that All-Star game when he wins MVP. And then you got to say the Jordan crossover game. Those are like 3 things where you're like, okay, that's Allen Iverson. You know what I'm saying? And like, Steve, I don't know if you remember if you were here during that time, but like Philly wins game 1, Broad Street is going crazy.
I imagine.
People are driving, honking the horns, getting out, high-fiving. You hear gunshots going off. Like, people are excited. Yeah, people are excited. And it was, unfortunately, that's the only game they got. And then by the time they got to Philly, and Steve, I'm going to let you go, but I asked Kobe about it. Now, this was before they beat Boston in the finals. So this is probably like
2010,
the year, I'd say 2008, I asked Kobe. Okay. And this is before they get to the finals. Like they had just gotten Pau Gasol. And I was like, Kobe, was your second ring, was that the most meaningful championship? And he said, yeah, at the time. He said, yeah, because he said when he made the announcement to go pro, everybody doubted him. And the Philly media ripped him. And people were saying it was his dad's idea and his dad's dream. And this is stupid in your regard. So he was like, I got a chance to come back and say, hey, I told you so. But then 2 years later, he's like, yo, it's still up there. He was like, but as a Laker beating the Celtics, it don't get any better than that. So I was like, all right, that's fair.
Facts.
I agree.
Facts. And
I agree.
Woo! Randy, boy, this is good. 96, boy. I can go on and on about 96, boy.
Yeah, we might have to do a part two with Ann with a different topic. I know my man got a lot of history, a lot of stories. There's only part one, but Ann, I do want to thank you for coming on, man, sharing some wisdom, some knowledge about AI, Philly, and that whole run. Hopefully, Philly gets there again this year and makes some noise. Gets the Lakers. We'll see what happens. So from Denny Blanco, follow him on Twitter at I am Denny Blanco. Also IG. Follow me, Randy J. Cruz, RENDY, the letter J, CRUZ, Axe Gilbert on Twitter. Thank y'all, and I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Ball is life.
That's right.